Put your head on my shoulder.
Hello guys, good to have you here. Welcome to my channel. I'm Elena. I just finished making this dress and I honestly love it so much. I love the tinsel. It's basically like pink and blue and tinsel and I love it. It makes me feel so cute. So I'm gonna walk you through how to make it. I'm using a Bodice B5605 pattern and 4 3/4 yards of fabric. All links are below in the description box. This fabric is insane. I went to Joann's. I was gonna get some basic cotton floral fabric. It was gonna be cute. Then I was like, I'm gonna go check the clearance section, and I'm so glad I did because this fabric was on sale for $4 a yard. It is the most gorgeous fabric I've ever seen. So you can see here, I'm just cutting out all my pattern pieces. The pattern I'm using is kind of a vintage pattern. It's really super cute. I am making a few edits to it. I'm bringing the back up a little bit and I'm doing a totally different skirt. It also has the sleeve built into the bodice. You don't sew on a separate sleeve. And so because of that, you have to be really careful about your armpit and you have to be really precise with it. So the reason why I'm cutting out 4 little fabric squares is so that we can reinforce that point in the armpit. We want it to be as crisp and pointy as we can get it. And so instead of just sewing the bodice side into there, we're going to sew this fabric square and fold it in. That way, when you sew your bodice side, you can sew it to the piece of fabric and not see as many seams. When you sew the squares to that armpit, you are going to sew it in a triangle and then slash it and cut up to the top of your triangle as close as you can get it without cutting your actual seam. And then fold it over and pin it, make sure it looks decent, and then that flap is what you're going to sew your bodice side to. Also make sure you take plenty of snack breaks because this is intense. When you sew your bodice side to your bodice front, make sure that you bring it up all the way into the armpit and pin it to that square that we just sewed on and then down the other side. Then you can go ahead and sew where you pinned it along as normal. Again, you're attaching your bodice side to your bodice front or back, whichever you're doing, and try to use your normal seam allowance. Flip it over, make sure that it has a nice point, it's nice and crisp. Once you do that to the front and back pieces of the bodice, you can put them together. So you're going to pin and then sew along the shoulder, the bottom of the sleeve, and both sides. Check your work, make sure it all looks about right, and then you need to put it on to also make sure it looks super cute. Once you're pretty satisfied with the fit, you are going to trim the bottom of the lining. So basically, you're going to make the bodice twice because we need a lining. So with the lining, you want to flip the bottom of it in so that it looks really nice and clean when you are wearing your dress. When you do sew that, fold it in twice and then use a zigzag stitch, and that'll help it be really nice and secure. And now is the amazing moment of truth when you are going to attach your lining and outside of the bodice. So put right sides together and make sure that you're matching up the shoulder seams as good as you can, and then pin it really securely, making sure that you're also pinning the tie, and then you are going to sew all the way around like normal and use your normal seam allowance. Once you finish going all the way around, clip the corners of your tie and then do your best to get it inside out. The tie is kind of tough because it's so tiny and skinny, but do your best to get the corners nice and sharp and tight as good as possible. And then I wanted to do a top stitch. If it was a different kind of fabric, that may not be necessary, but because I'm using a Jacquard, it's kind of stiff and I can't really iron it. So I went ahead and made sure it was exactly how I wanted it, and then I pinned it and then did a top stitch all the way around. We are doing a top stitch, so try to get your seam allowance as small as you possibly can. We do not want this stitch to be noticeable. We want it to blend in as much as possible. By the time I finished it, I was totally feeling myself. I was like, wow, this is looking so good. Now I need a skirt. The pattern that I used didn't have the type of skirt that I wanted. I wanted a really gathered, full-looking skirt. So I just cut 2 rectangles and gathered the top. You want to go ahead and do 2 lines of stitches right next to each other, a super long stitch so that it's loose and you can pull the top threads of both sides, yank on it, and gather it as much as possible. Usually my rule of thumb is just to gather as much as I can, and then I can let it out once I am pinning it to the bodice, but I usually like to have it more gathered and then be able to let it out if I need to. Now is the time for pockets. I love pockets, so I'm so excited about this. Take your pockets and pin them right sides together to both sides of your skirt, front and back, and then sew like normal. Once you've done that for both sides, you're going to match up your skirt front and your skirt back, pin, and then sew down along the pocket and skirt. Once you're ready to attach the skirt to the bodice, pin up that lining. You do not want to get that caught when you're sewing it, and then just go ahead and start pinning your skirt to the bodice. Try to match it up in the front first so you get it as centered as possible. Once you feel good about it and you like how it's sitting, you can brave the machine and sew it together. This part always scares me a little bit because you're sewing through, it feels like a bajillion layers of fabric. So just be so careful here not to catch anything. I think I did, and I had to go back and pick it out. So be super careful, but go slow and you can do it. Usually once I get to this point, I have such hard motivation to actually put the zipper in and finish because I'm like, I did all of it. It's basically already a dress. It should be good, right? No. So next is the sleeves. I went ahead and just folded both pieces of fabric over twice, pinned it, and then sewed it. This is pretty much how I do sleeves every time. Once I did that, I was trying to figure out how I wanted the hem to be. So I put in my petticoat, pinned it up, and I was like, okay, wait a minute, this is kind of cute. So this made me want to do a bubble hem. which is scary because I've never done one before. But basically what you do is you gather the hem of your skirt, not too much, you need to be able to walk, but you hem it, and then you sew a lining right sides together and it will bubble. So before I sew anything on, I'm just making sure that my back opening where I'm going to put my zipper is all nice and finished and just looking even. And then I'm going to go ahead and pin and then sew the lining to the skirt. Once you've gone all the way around, you're going to flip it right side out. Make sure it all looks nice, and then you have to figure out a way to attach that lining to your bodice. Normally, if you do a bubble skirt, you do that part before you attach the skirt to the bodice. I wasn't planning on doing this, so I kind of messed up a little bit, but it turned out all okay in the end. Just make sure that you're very precise, as I am demonstrating here with my finger measuring. But I don't know, that's the great thing about sewing. You can improvise and it will still turn out amazing. Once you are done with hem, you are ready for the zipper. This part is exciting. So I'm just putting it up to my dress to see how long approximately I want my zipper. I got a really long one. I just wanted to be safe. I wasn't sure how long I would need it. So I measured it, and then if you ever need to shorten your zipper, just basically do a big fat zigzag in the spot that you want it to stop at, and voila, you have a custom length zipper. To put in the zipper, I pin it to the back opening of my dress. I'm trying to get it as straight and flat and close to the edge as I possibly can. I am using an invisible zipper, and so therefore I'm using an invisible zipper presser foot. This will change your life. I'm not even kidding. It makes it so easy to get a close stitch to your zipper teeth. So I highly recommend investing in one. Once you do the left side, you're ready for the right side. Match it up, make sure that they're sitting about the same height on your garment, and then sew that side just like you did the other side. If you guys want a more in-depth zipper tutorial, I'm so happy to film one. Just let me know if you are interested. Once you've got your zipper in, you are ready for the hook in the eye at the top of the zipper. This will help you zip up your zipper and also close the gap so you don't have to take it all the way up to the top. With the hook and eye, that is something that you do have to hand sew, which is unfortunate for me because I am not the best at hand sewing, but that's why we practice, right? They're super easy. You just sew them on to the edge of your fabric. Make sure that they're sticking out enough so that you can hook it onto the other side. You don't want it to overlap, but you also don't want to see too much of the hook in the eye. Once you are done with the zipper and the hook in the eye, you are officially on the last step. So you will cut out a long strip of fabric, fold it right sides together, sew all the way down, forget to leave a couple inch gap like I did, pick it out, and then put it right sides out. This is kind of tough because I did a really thin, long tube, so it was hard, but well worth it. Once again, I am going to top stitch all the way down because, again, I am not ironing this Jacquard, but it worked out good. Just don't run out of bobbin halfway down like I did. Man, finishing this, it was a struggle, but we ultimately made it through. We persevered. And here it is. Ta-da! Here's the final product. I cannot believe how cute it turned out. Ugh, I love the bubble skirt. I love the tie. I love the fabric. I love it so much. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it inspires you to do something new as well. Thank you so much and subscribe.